Hey, everybody, welcome to our very first episode of Beyond the Dose. I am beyond excited that you are here. And thank you for joining me on this new chapter and this new adventure of podcasting. I want this podcast to be a safe space where we have real conversations and we talk about real tools and practical solutions to managing our everyday lives and finding deeper meaning, deeper connection, finding purpose, and just really managing the hard sides of life. We all struggle at times, and I want this to be a space where we can talk about solutions and how to manage your life. So thank you for being here. Also, if you've been following me for a little while, I do write a monthly blog post every month. And this month, in January of 2025, my blog post was all about burnout in America. And so I thought I would kick off the podcast season with the same episode or the same topic for our first episode. I also, burnout is very near and dear to my heart because I myself have suffered burnout on occasion. And, I think if you're a type A personality and a high achiever, you probably have also experienced burnout at different times of your lives. I think it's a common result of the type of pressure that high achievers put on themselves to quote succeed in this life. And we're going to talk about that today and talk about what that means, what it looks like. um, what is burnout? Do you have it? And how do you manage yourself out of it? But I wanted to start today with a couple of alarming statistics just to kind of set the stage and context for what we're talking about. In 2022, 59 million Americans struggled with mental health. That's a quarter of the country, almost 23%. And I would bet that today's numbers are even higher given the state of the world that we are living in today. And that tells me there's a lot of folks out there struggling with depression, anxiety, overwhelm, and burnout. Here's another statistic I want to throw at you. This one really shocked me, if I'm honest. So according to the American Medical Association, 80% of all doctor's visits have a major stress component. And I think why that stood out for me is, I think anybody who is knowledgeable or is interested in general health and wellness, I think most of us would agree, and we all recognize today that the mind body connection is very strong. And, we know that in America, we have some of the highest disease rates and chronic disease in the world. And it's not surprising to me that the mental health numbers are equally high, and that 80% of doctors' visits include a major stress component tells me how strong that mind-body connection is. And so I really wanted to share that statistic, not to scare people, but to really put into context how strong the mind body connection is and how much, how we manage our stress really impacts the rest of our lives. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But finally, my last statistic that I want to throw out for you to ponder and think about is coming from Mercer's 2024 Global Talent Trends study. And in that, they have indicated that over 80%, again, we're at 80%, over 80% of employees risk burnout in 2025. So if you have a job and you work, or if you are a business owner, or if you are a leader or manager in your organization, hopefully this conversation today is useful. And all I ask is, stop in and think about your own life and those you may be leading and supporting in your office, and realize that probably a big portion of your peers and staff are suffering from burnout. If 80% are predicted to suffer this year. So let's talk about it. What is burnout? Like, what is it? Really, all burnout is chronic unmanaged stress. Anytime we have stress in our lives, we have anxiety, we have worry, and we don't address it, and we compartmentalize it, we stuff it down, we numb ourselves, we distract ourselves, we do all kinds of things in order not to feel the stress that we're actually feeling. Every time we do that, those feelings don't go away. We just keep kind of pushing them down, pushing them down, pushing them down. And just like compounded interest, which is a good thing, our stress can also compound, right? And eventually, that shows up as and manifests as burnout, as physical disease, physical sickness, illness, and mental health challenges. So, real simple: burnout, chronic unmanaged stress. Um, the other, thing I think I'd like us to think about in relation to burnout is this productivity trap that we all have gotten into. I think it's very common, especially with type A personalities, people who are high achievers. Where we often source our worth and our value and our love from our achievements, from outside sources. If you're somebody like me who, most of my life, I just kind of assumed that I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, because why wouldn't I? I want to be successful. I want to be valued for my work. And so my goal was constantly like, how can I get ahead? How can I move up this corporate ladder? How can I take on more responsibility? How can I do more? How can I produce more? And sometimes we can really get into a trap of feeling like, we can't rest. Rest is for the lazy, or this grind. We all collectively bought into this fast culture and this like constantly being on. Technology is pervasive in our lives, and we use it for everything. I use it for the good stuff and the stuff that I don't enjoy. My music is on there, my calendar, all my contacts. If I'm going to schedule time to go hang out with friends, I'm doing it on my phone. So, our biology and our physical selves are not wired to always be on and always be producing. Our bodies require rest. And so today I'd like to really challenge us on some of these core stories and core paradigms that we all have, and really ask yourself, what do you really truly believe about doing nothing? Is that really difficult for you? Is it difficult for you to just sit and stare at the clouds and drink a cup of tea? Or is that come naturally to you? Is that something that you build into your day? Let's think about that and talk about that. And then lastly, one thing I wanted to also highlight is that we often think about burnout in relation to our careers and to our jobs. But really, burnout affects all areas of our lives. It spills over into our relationships, relationships with our loved ones, our kids, our partners, our friends, relationships with ourselves, right? The relationship with ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, how we don't take care of ourselves. And so when we talk about burnout, I'm not just talking about it in relation to work and career. I'm really, for me, I know back in 2019 was really like the height of my burnout. And I had probably been in burnout from 2014 to 2019, if I'm really honest, and look back at the circumstances. And just like everyone else, it was like, okay, I don't have time for that right now. Yeah, I'm unhappy at work, or yes, I'm struggling with a lot of stress in my life, but I don't have time for that. I just need to keep on keeping on. I got to put food on the table. I got to pay the bills. I got to get these kids off to school. And so a lot of times we get stuck into this routine of the daily grind. And we don't realize how burnout does truly impact all aspects of our lives until it's too late, until it's kind of front and center and you're having a breakdown in the middle of your kitchen. That may have been me. I'm not telling. No, you'll hear more about it throughout the season. So, what are the signs that you may be suffering from burnout? Typically there are physical cues if you want to pay attention. If you're somebody who is struggling to fall asleep at night and or stay asleep at night, if you are somebody who is suffering headaches or heavy fatigue, lack of energy. I know myself when I was in the throes of burnout, it was really just difficult to motivate myself to do anything. It felt like the simplest tasks on my to-do list were so overwhelming. Simply like calling to make an appointment or getting to the grocery store, or getting the laundry folded and put away. Some of these things just felt so overwhelming and insurmountable. And so often, your body's going to let you know, do you have tension? Are you having headaches? Are you having GI issues? Again, lack of sleep, insomnia, those are all really good early telltale signs that you may need to take a rest and take a pause and do some self-reflection. Um, you know, Pay attention also to what parts of your body may be indicating stress or exhaustion, and ask yourself why that body part and why now. There may be some clues there as well to where the source of your stress is, and how you might be able to cope and move through that. So I got notes because I'm a real person and I can't remember all of the things I wanted to talk about. Um, there are also often emotional and behavioral signs, right? So if you're starting to feel cynical, if you're feeling irritable and you're finding that small things are setting you off that normally would not set you off, are you spending a lot of time in your own head, ruminating on thoughts and decisions? Are you finding it difficult to make decisions and move forward? Those all might be signs that you are indeed suffering from burnout and that you need to pay attention. Um, and then, you know, ask yourself why you feel drained by specific situations and why you're experiencing burnout at this very moment in your life. I'm a firm believer that our struggles and our daily, challenges are signs are like guideposts in our mental wellness journey, right? They can be real helpful clues to where the root cause is. And so it's only through slowing down and paying attention to our physical cues, our emotional cues, that we may start to unravel for ourselves what's really going on behind the scenes. A lot of times, it's real easy to say, like, I have this looming project and I have a million things to do. I don't know how I'm going to get it done. I have to work all night or work all weekend and blame, it's very easy to blame our stress and our burnout on very obvious things like that. But quite often, the root of what's really going on lies somewhere deeper. And I personally believe that it's when we're not in alignment with what's important to ourselves, with our own values, our own purpose, that we begin to slowly suffer burnout, and slowly over time, as we talked about earlier, that builds and builds and builds, and to a point where your body and your energy levels are so depleted that you cannot do anything but pay attention. And hopefully, let's get ahead of it before we get to that point. So what are some things that we can do to manage burnout and to manage stress? Again, pay attention. Your body is your ally in this journey and in your mental well-being. Our bodies often give us clues and signs that we need to take a break. I can tell you right now, I've had a long day. I've had a number of, you know, uh, Zoom calls, and I actually recorded another podcast with somebody else for their podcast this morning. So I've been on camera all day today and I'm tired. So this, I wanted to get this done today, but I am tired and my body is telling me I need to stretch, I need to move. And so as soon as I'm done recording this podcast, I'm going to make it a priority to actually take care of my physical body, and get some rest. Even though I still have probably 10 things on my to-do list that honestly, I could really get done today. I still have time to get done today, but I also recognize I've really started to pay attention when things are harder than they should be, when I'm having trouble making a decision about what to say or what direction to take, and my body's hurting, my neck, my back, I'm stiff, my hip from sitting all day. Those are signs that I'm really starting to pay attention to and take seriously and give myself the space, to find the balance and to find the rest that I need. Because I find when I do that, I'm actually way more productive and I get way more done with less effort. And so we all want to work smarter, not harder, right? And so really pay attention to those clues that your body's giving you, in helping you to manage burnout, manage stress, manage overwhelm, anxiety, whatever that is for you. Um, the other thing that, I found really helpful is just slowing down. I think, again, we talked a little bit about the fast pace of this culture and the world, and we've all kind of collectively bought into this idea that faster is better, and that, production is king. Um, but I really am hoping to challenge some of those core stories and beliefs this season on the podcast, through different conversations and different guests, because what I'm finding the older I get, and the more that I really pay attention and I'm mindful of what's going on for me emotionally and physically, that it's in those moments of stillness and in those moments of quiet, in those moments where I allow myself to rest and recover and rejuvenate, when some of my best ideas come forward. So if you are someone who's a creative, this may already be, you know, a no-brainer for you. But for some of us who maybe don't identify as somebody creative and are very type A personalities who constantly feel the need to be, crossing things off their to-do list and getting ahead of tomorrow's tasks, um, what would it feel like for you if you just planned an afternoon of nothing, you know? And I really challenge you to do that. It can be really difficult. A lot of my psilocybin clients, my biggest piece of advice after a psilocybin journey for everyone is to find a stillness practice that works for them. And, that doesn't have to be meditation. Not everybody likes meditation. And some people are really, they get real anxious about the thought of even trying. And so it really needs to be something that feels organic to you, feels aligned to your life. It shouldn't feel like another to-do list. But whatever it is, do it 110%. I think a lot of us give 110% at work. We might want to give 110% to our families, to our loved ones, but we don't always give 110% to ourselves and to our own rest and recovery. And we all need that time. And so, what would it look like if you leaned in 110% to your rest time as much as you leaned in to your productivity time? And what I mean by that is, can you be still with yourself and not multitask? Can you be still with yourself without, feeling the need to get up and do something, do the dishes, do the laundry, whatever it is that you have looming, right? And feel what that feels like in your body. In the beginning, it can feel really difficult. You might feel some real tension in your body at the thought of just lying still and not doing anything. Maybe you're worried about what emotions might surface and might come forward for you. But I would say that is the whole reason why you should do it, right? As we started off in this episode talking about what is burnout. It's chronic unmanaged stress. So every time we don't feel our feelings, every time we stuff them down, every time we distract ourselves with other things, those feelings don't go away. They're still there. And that is, how we end up in burnout. That is how we end up in depression. That is how we end up having panic attacks. Our feelings need to be felt. And I think all of us have not necessarily learned how to actually feel our feelings and self regulate. And so part of my challenge to you, if you're suffering from any of these things, is to really lean into stillness, find moments throughout your day where you can just be quiet with yourself, give yourself time away from technology, time away from people. If you have any kind of faith or prayer practice, that can be a beautiful addition. Um, but find a way that works for you. Sometimes that could be you go fishing. If you enjoy fishing, go enjoy some fishing. If you enjoy a walk with your dog, do that, but leave your phone behind. Whatever it is, just carve out those moments of stillness and to check in with yourself and give yourself the space to feel whatever you're feeling that day, and see if that doesn't start to help benefit your life. I found that the more I do that, the more I crave it. And the easier it is to recognize the signs when I need it. And then really do that for myself, and really, stop working at 4 o'clock and go lay down and read a book or binge watch a Netflix show or take a walk outside or go and do a sauna. Or sit and do my Bible study and just have some quiet prayer time. Whatever it is for you, lean into it, find a way to incorporate it into your life. It doesn't have to be perfect. Some days I don't manage either, but I strive to find that every day, but definitely every week. And I guarantee the more that you do it, the more you're going to crave it and the more you're going to benefit from it. So that's my big old piece of advice today. Um, and then also, reassess your priorities. A lot of us talk about, my family's my priority, my kids are my priority, my spouse is my priority. But are our actions actually backing that up? I think with high achievers, it's very easy for us to throw ourselves into work and create the story in our head that we're doing it for all the right reasons. And you might be doing it for all the right reasons. You're working to put food on the table and give your kids a better life, whatever your reasons are. But how can you reframe some of those stories in your head, and how can you really show up for what you say is a priority in your life, and explore some of those core stories that you have, regarding productivity, regarding what's important to you. And I suspect that as you start to explore some of those core stories and give yourself space to really feel your feelings, new insights and new information may bubble up, and you might find yourself learning things about yourself that that were right there the whole time that you didn't recognize. And lastly, I'd like to say I actually am launching a free burnout course to help manage your way through burnout and find your way to purpose. If that's something that is interesting to you, I will be launching that new course the same week that I'm launching this podcast. So have a look out for that. And there's a lot of really good practical tools. It's a 5-day email course, self-paced. I've tried to really pack it full with some practical tips and advice of things that you can do to really help move through burnout and find a path forward. I know for myself, when I was in the throes of burnout, it was really hard to see a path forward. I was just in this survival mode, like really just, okay, I just got to get through this day. I got to finish, this project, this task. get my kids ready for school, get them fed, get them to bed, right? A lot of us are out here just surviving. And so I recognize that when you're in the throes of that and you're feeling the stress and the anxiety of whatever is happening in your life, it can be really hard to see a way out of it. It can be really hard to make little incremental changes that start to kind of compound and give you hope and give you insight and give you clarity. So I'm hoping this course will do that for a lot of folks. I would love to hear feedback for anybody who signs up and does it, and let me know what you think. Let me know if it was helpful. My number one goal is to provide, resources and support for anybody who is wanting to make some changes in their lives. One way I also do that with my clients is through the use of psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin. And we're going to be talking a lot about that method and the use of psilocybin throughout the season of Beyond the Dose. And it will be a big part of the conversation, but it's not the only tool that we have available to us in our tool belt. And I recognize that it's not for everybody. And there's a lot of folks who are probably still really curious about it and want to know more. So, I invite you to reach out if you have topics that you'd like me to discuss this season on the podcast. If you know anybody who might be a really great guest, maybe you're a good guest. Maybe you've had experience with psilocybin mushrooms and you want to come on and share your experience. I invite you to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, we're going to continue this conversation about, mental health, wellness, and all the things that we have available to us to help us manage this life. And yeah, that is the end of my first podcast episode. I'm sure I will get better at this as I keep doing it. I'm really excited about a couple of the first guests I have lined up for you guys. And so stick with us. We're going to keep getting better. And please be part of the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope if you are out there suffering from burnout today, check out the free course. Let me know if it's helpful. And yeah, that's it for today. All right. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And I can't wait to continue on this journey with you this season. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.